All right, fam. I hope you brought your aquarium air pumps with you, as well as your bags of sunflower lecithin powder, because we're getting nerdy and making cocktail airs. All right, so a cocktail air is a cool, but also kind of nerdy culinary technique. It's like, a foam on top of a cocktail, but it's usually lighter bubbles, and it usually holds quite a while and is a way to add another form of texture, aroma, and flavor to your cocktails. I recently shared a short of my buddy Jonathan Stanyard from Seattle. He was the US champion of Diageo's world-class bartending competition. So he represented the US bartenders at Shanghai in 2024. So he came into the studio and made several of his world-class cocktails that he presented at this competition. And one of them involved a hop and honey air using IPA, honey, a little bit of citrus. Very delicious and also just cool looking. Since sharing that video, a lot of people have been interested in making cocktail airs, as well as just how does it work? Are there any kind of guidelines or certain techniques? He showed one with this air pump thing that we're hopefully going to mess with today, as well as sunflower lecithin. But to be honest, I've never attempted this before, so I'm not really one to answer questions. So I'm gonna just see if I can get Jonathan on the phone. Let's FaceTime him, see if he picks up. Oh, what's up, man?
What up, dude?
I was kind of hoping you'd be wearing like a lab jacket or something just to play into the scientist thing, but But several people were like, explain this to me. How does this work? What's the point of this? Was a few people, like, why do this? Like, can't you just put egg white in, So I guess like, if you're down to explain for those who sort of get it or maybe don't sort of get it like me, what are cocktail airs and why would you use them?
That's a great question. I think there's a couple ways to look at it, right? Like we've all had egg whites in cocktails. And we know what that brings. It brings a nice mouthfeel, creaminess, frothiness. It gives you a canvas to paint on top of. It brings a bunch of different opportunities. But when you talk about cocktail airs or foams, people like to get the two kind of mixed up. It doesn't matter what you call them. It's potato, potato, tomato. For me, foam is more, egg white based, thicker, heavier texture involved. There's some weight and mouthfeel, right? And these airs for me are something that's very light, that's very aromatic, that's nearly weightless on the palate. So it brings in just a new form, a new way to deliver, a cocktail experience. So for me, it's visual. And it's aromatics, and we are tasting, with our olfactory. We have, 2.5. This is a rough estimate, 2.5 times, stronger sense of smell than taste, and it's all linked, starting from your nose to the back of your mouth, down your esophagus, into your gut. Having said that, that's where the hops came in. For me, the reason I used the air in the apples and hops is hops are pretty like a strong flavor. They're bitter, right? So not everybody likes an IPA. Not everybody wants to drink an IPA, but maybe people like the smell of it. I think more people would enjoy the smell of an IPA than the taste of an IPA. They're very aromatic. So it's a good way to deliver our region, the Pacific Northwest being the hops capital of the world, to deliver what hops can bring to a cocktail without adding bitterness. Because you smell the cocktail, it's floral, it's hoppy, and then you taste it and it's like, oh, it's like a juicy apple teeny. So it's almost like two experiences on one, per se. You can always add more lecithin. It's going to make it more stable. It's going to make it thicker, a more firm air. The less you have in it, the lighter it's going to be. You also see these airs, people using like helium. I forgot the system that it is that people have with that orange blade. And it's air that is literally more like air that floats like a cloud. And that's totally cool. I'm not that cool. Maybe someday I'll play with that. But again, this is, picking up a $5, $10 aquarium pump, grabbing a little bit of the lecithin powder, and that's it. I guess it's a really inexpensive way to make a very effective cocktail experience. So having said that, I'd say every 500 grams of juice or liquid, you're adding, 1 to 2 grams of lecithin powder. I've gotten to the point where I don't like for at home and stuff purposes or like an event. I don't measure the lecithin. I just eyeball it because give or take, it's going to form. It's not going to change it. If I'm going into a cocktail competition, I'm going to measure that for sure.
Totally. Yeah, because I wasn't sure. Does like your base ingredient or whatever have to be carbonated? But it doesn't sound like it.
I think the carbonation, I think that's probably a bad thing. I think it's probably better like in that. The hop and honey air that we made for that video. I think we just cracked the beer and just made it. I don't think I shook the beer or stirred it. But I think the key is when you're building these airs, using that fine mesh strainer to put the lecithin powder through to disperse it because it comes out a little chunky. It's unfortunate. Like I had that exact bag. It's so big, and I think I threw away maybe half of it because the expiration came up, and I'm not a big expiration guy, but I was doing an event recently. And we had air issues, and I think it was due maybe to the shelf life on that, or my pump was too weak. I bought a new pump recently that I used yesterday, and it's like making air 20 times faster. So I know going into my next event, I'll be good. So like if you can get smaller bags, like I picked up a smaller bag from like an Indian market, it's much better because it will, once you open that, I would put it in a Ziploc as well, that bag within a Ziploc, because it absorbs any sort of moisture and then it clumps up. And it's a little more difficult to work with. So that's my only heads up. The smaller quantity, the better.
How about my aquarium pump came with this little stone, which I know is for an aquarium, but should I stick that in my air too, or does it not matter?
You definitely want or need that. I haven't tried it without that, but I mean, the idea is it's going to push the air through that stone. Yeah. And create, hundreds of micro bubbles. Gotcha. So it's going to give you a more finite air, smaller bubbles. Yeah. I'm sure you could do it without the stone. I haven't experimented. I think it would be like bigger bubbles. I mean, and maybe that's what you're going for. I think it's just all relative to what you're trying to deliver.
Dude, well, thank you. This is great. I have all kinds of stuff to pull in. So I'm probably going to experiment a little bit and I'll see what I actually include in the video. But there's a kombucha I really like where I was like, this would be fun to turn this into a foam that I'm going to try messing with, or in air, sorry.
Yeah, you call it whatever you want.
Yeah, but I'll see. I might fail miserably, but
So I think like with kombucha, it depends on how strong it is, but like stuff like that, like always think about possibly reducing it, putting it on the stove and cooking it on low heat for 15-30 minutes to reduce it. Because as you add the air into it, like the flavor and aromatics are going to dissipate a little bit. Yeah. Right? So
that makes sense.
Like I've done like red wine foam, and I'm like, okay, we do red wine air, but I think just adding the lecithin and then adding air into the red wine, I don't know how potent it would be. Right. So I think like making a red wine reduction and then going into that process again will be more effective. Okay. That's something I always think about because you're adding, you're stretching an ingredient. And just adding, I don't know, I'm not a science polysaccharide. I don't know what you're adding into it, some sort of proteins, and it's going to take away some aromatics and flavor. So trying to concentrate whatever that base ingredient is.
That makes sense.
Pretty important.
All right, so I followed Jonathan's advice and I reduced the kombucha down to about half the volume just to concentrate those flavors. And then now measurement-wise, I'm just gonna follow kind of his previous recipe or template for measurements here. I'm just gonna do 75 grams of the reduced kombucha. Gonna add a little bit of sweetness here with 15 grams of simple syrup. Get a little bit of citrus in there, so 10 grams of fresh lemon. And we're gonna do 1 gram of this Sunflower Lecithin, I think is how I pronounced it. I was calling it lectin, I think, my bad. Yeah, it's a very fine powder, wow. You mentioned not wanting it to be too clumpy, so we'll see if I can manage that. All right, that's exactly 1 gram. Now I've got my little latte whisk thingy. Gonna get that nice and incorporated together. So here is our air pump. Again, this is just like a little $5, $10 air pump for an aquarium. Just gonna drop that in, turn this up, we'll see what happens. Make sure it's submerged all the way. Oh, there we go. I think the stone that came with my pump is a little large, so it's a little harder for me to keep it like fully submerged in the liquid. So I have to kind of stand here and hold it. So if you get one with a smaller stone, you could probably just drop the tubing in and you're good to go. Yeah, now that I'm holding it down under the liquid level, it's growing a lot faster. Look at that. I mean, I guess I should like turn it off once it's full. Nice. I mean, that looks pretty awesome. I mean, I want to taste it. Wow, that's fun. I didn't really think about what sort of cocktail I'm gonna make with this, so we should come up with one. All right, keeping this cocktail fairly simple and starting with some simple syrup. I guess simple is relative though. Gonna do some Supasawa. You can use lime juice for this. This is just gonna allow this cocktail to be perfectly clear. Since the kombucha I used for making this foam is very herbaceous and floral, I'm gonna add a little bit of this Flora green liqueur. This is a liqueur made locally here in Portland, and it's made from hyssop, spearmint, lemon balm, chamomile, lavender, angelica root, and tarragon. And then for my base spirit, we're gonna do some tequila. Full 2 ounces. Have my glass prepped here, and we'll ice up and shake. We'll double strain into our coupe. Got enough space in this glass to add the air on top. Gonna build my foam up a little higher. Beautiful. I realize I keep calling this a foam, but it's an air. Probably did that all throughout this video. My bad, my bad. All right, carefully top this. Let's see. This is the first time I've done this, so I apologize if it's all sloppy. I'm no world-class bartender like Mr. Sanyard. I mean, that looks fun. Looks like bubble bath. I apologize, I'm not really doing a camera photo lesson on this one because I just want to play with this air thing. This is too fun, but of course I have to get a few quick photos of it. So, pulling out my A7 IV, kind of shooting into the light. Slightly backlit. Gotta make that foam stand out. You can see I'm not shooting directly into the light, but it's definitely more backlit. Get this dark background, but make sure my subject and that air is nice and lit up. Of course, we have to try this thing, see if it hits. Not even totally sure how to try it other than just sticking my nose right in there. Oh, that's fun. That's definitely different than foam, like egg white foam, because it just disappears right away as soon as it hits your tongue. But you are getting this nice, very airy, in this case, you know, tangy flavor from the kombucha, a little bit of citrus in there, some sweetness. It's a nice combo with this cocktail as well, so I might tweak this a little bit, but this is pretty nice. If you end up making your own cocktail air, still want to call it foam, be sure and let me know either in the comments on this video or tag me on Instagram at Cocktail Camera. Also tag my buddy Jonathan, who helped me out with this video. His account is The Bitter Gringo. He has a lot of tutorials on his account about airs, foams, a lot of other cool techniques, so be sure and give him a follow as well. And just like always, let me know in the comments what you'd like to learn next, whether that's techniques and recipes on the cocktail and mixology side, or stuff on the photo video side. Cheers, and I'll see you in the next one.